All right, what is good, everybody? I'm Imkingcash. Let's get straight into the video. So I've been having a lot of these astral stories on my chest for a long time because I kind of felt hesitant talking about them, and as well as a lot of the GFL beings that I work for were telling me not to talk about it just yet. So I realized I had to wait a bit, and you guys see me talk about my journeys a little bit, especially on live, but then I don't make too many videos, and the ones that I want to make videos about, they told me to wait. So now is finally the time where I'm allowed to talk about these things as they are less classified, and it's time for everybody to know about the truth. Mars is a very interesting subject because Mars used to be a home for me before Earth. This is way back. I used to be a speed racer, and I was doing a lot of missions on Mars to try and stop the explosion that was going to happen. So I was, as Starseeds, almost all of us are GFL agents. So I was a GFL agent at the time. There was a lot of war going on at that time. And there was a war between the natives and entities that were benevolent and beings that wanted to colonize Mars and were more malevolent. So I remember being a speed racer, and that was part of my personality, but I was a warrior and I was trying to stop the war that was happening along with many other agents that were on Mars as well for a mission. So Mars means a lot to me. And when I discovered this, I decided I wanted to go to Mars. Now, remember, the reason why I astral travel is because I wanted to disclose the truth. I got tired of hearing people say things and then me not know what the truth is. I was like, I want to discover the truth for myself. I was so obsessed with astral travel when I was younger. I said, I'm going to astral travel. I'm going to explore. I'm going to be a warrior, and I'm going to find the truth, the bare truth, and tell the people about it. And now I'm here, and I did all those things, and I'm doing all those things. And now I'm really excited and happy to express the truth. So just know that anything I talk about is nothing but the truth. And if you don't believe me, you could go and see for yourself. When I first went to Mars, actually, let me pull up my astral journal. So when I first went to Mars, I remember that there was a giant city. Now it looked kind of desertish, and it felt like the vibe almost felt like Saudi Arabia. But the weird part is the city was not native to or run by native Martians. It was run by people who have colonized. So I'm not fully sure how it works, but there's an underground base, and there's also cities on the surface of Mars to this day. And the city is actually run by malevolent reptilians and malevolent greys. And they have partnered with people like Elon Musk. If people are asking why there's this obsession with Mars with him, and it's because he wants to take over Earth as well as many other elites. They want to run Earth, but they also want to run other planets like Mars. So these people have already been making deals with dark reptilians and greys. As you guys know most of these people work for these entities or work with these entities. They work with these entities, but really they work for them. During especially World War II, which was really behind the scenes, it was all an extraterrestrial war. And these extraterrestrials, the GFL went to the governments of Earth, especially the US government, and said, look, we could help you and your people rise up in consciousness to become a star civilization and mesh with the beings in the stars, but you have to agree to get rid of your bombs and get rid of these nuclear weapons that are going to destroy your planet. And the government just basically laughed in their faces. And then when the reptilians and the greys came, the reptilians and greys said, we'll give you this technology, we'll give you these things, but you have to allow us to do what we want to do on the planet. You have to allow us to do certain things. We will help you gain more power on the planet. And of course, that's right up the government's alley. So this is like a Tuesday to know that the government, especially the US government, works for, and I'm saying that on purpose, works for these dark malevolent entities, which religion just calls demons. And then the GFL, which is really the angels, or humans call the angels, came and said, we'll help you rise in consciousness, but you got to give up these weapons, and you basically got to give up this authoritarian power, this need to enslave the people. And they didn't like that. These governments on Earth know their time is almost up. That's why you see them running. They're running. Oh, let's do this. Let's do that. Trump is moving so quick because they know their time is almost up. So the plan was to use Mars as another planet to colonize, as basically like plan B. But in their agenda, it wasn't plan B. It was number 2. So it was like conquer Earth and then conquer Mars, right? That was their plan. But they know their time is almost up, even though they're trying to make it seem like it's not up, and they're trying to keep the lid on the jar as long as possible. And if you're involved in the Astral War, you're fighting against a lot of these dark entities that are just trying to keep the lid on the jar as long as possible. What's happening is they are now saying, okay, we're going to get what we can, do what we can, and then just book it to Mars after. That's why you see them basically doing funneling money after money, doing scam after scam, essentially to gain power and then book it to Mars. So what did I see on Mars? I saw they have a city, which they call the City of Angels, which is wild. Reminds me of LA and the whole thing with LA, right? But really what's happening is they have this city and it's run by a giant AI. It's run by a giant AI, which I will not disclose the name of. And Elon basically made this AI, and the city's run by the AI, as well as it's run by robots. So he has a robot army, a whole ass robot army that is like the police. So especially if astral travelers are going in there and not supposed to, these robot armies kick them out. If people are not doing what they should, they kick them out. So it's a city mixed with natives and conquerors, I want to call them, or malevolent ETs. So it's a mix. Mars used to be a home for me a long time ago. So being there, I'm like, wow, this place is like, it's no different from when it got bust up, right? When it got destroyed. And I just remember the streets, driving on the streets and going on mission after mission, hunting down these reptilians and greys that were doing this stuff on the planet. And they're still doing it to this day, which is wild. It hasn't changed. So what happened? Long story short, I knew that they were going to see me. So I secretly went I was trying to see their security. So they set up cameras everywhere, on every street, on every block. And the robots are like all attached to each other and attached to the greater AI, which is like a motherboard, a big AI that runs everything. I was warned by the GFL that I was going to be spotted soon if I kept going. And I was like, you guys know I'm going to be here. I need to understand what's going on here. So I actually went into their security area and I got to see through their cameras and stuff like that. So I was looking at all this security footage and I went in and I was secretly in there and I was looking at all this security footage and what's going on. And then I had to escape. So I jumped up the building and I escaped. I'm just reading right here what happened on my thing. So I was talking to a bunch of natives, and then at one point I went to this. When you astral travel for somewhere for a long period of time, you'll notice you have like a hotel or like a place in the astral that's like a astral house for a short period of time, so like a hotel. And so I had that. And when I went in the basement, there was these like robots that were like mannequins. They were like in place. They were like frozen in place in the basement. And I remember passing by them. I'm like, something's not right with these guys. Something's not right. And then I thought I saw it move, but nobody else saw it move. And I just didn't trust them. I didn't trust them. And then I remember I saw it move, and then they all started running at me, and I slammed the door and they started banging on the door. It felt like that one scene in Lock and Key where the mannequins were going after everybody. It was like that. And that's when I knew they knew I was there. Once that happened, I was like, they know. Right. It's done now. Right. I remember even going to some bars and I was hanging out with some people. I remember just seeing there was like some people I was talking to that I was having conflicts with, some people that were really nice. I remember talking to some natives. These natives lived in a really rundown house. It was like the slums of the city. It was really wild, but they were so happy. They were so happy. It was like Native Americans, like they're treated so horribly, but they're still so happy because they're so connected to nature and their spirit. That's what it was like. And the natives are red skin looking. Yeah, and they kind of look like that. And they have big feet, like big feet. It's very fascinating. They used to be warriors and stuff like that, but now, as you can see, it's being colonized. Now, let me read more what was happening. Oh, I went to this one party, and all of these explorers were there, like galactic explorers were there. And I was talking with them, and it was awesome because we had a good relationship. And they were telling me how next they were going to Elder Baron, and then how they use the portals of Hydra a lot and stuff like that. It was super awesome, and she had on these like very colorful clothes. She was a traveler, like she traveled many places. And yeah, and then I talked to some people that were kind of like stupid. It was very interesting. Yeah, this one crow being came and was telling me about 2027. But that's all I'll say about that. Oh, yeah, right. I kept using Sedona at one point to go to Mars. Remember that Sedona is a giant spaceport. So if you go there, you could go anywhere. So I actually went to Sedona and use Sedona, the portals in Sedona and the spaceport there, to go to Mars. And I use it to go to the more positive area of Mars, which was cool. And there were some darker areas, which I knew if I went there that the AI was going to know I was there. So I just didn't end up guaning. But at one point before that, I was fighting on Mars a lot. Let me scroll up and see what's going on. So I just want to say, y'all, that if you're going to go to Mars, proceed with caution. If you are a GFL agent and you're on mission, it's not going to be safe there for you, especially when the AI spot you, when they realize you're there. You're on mission there, but you're not low key. You're gonna get in trouble. Okay, they're gonna know. Once the AI knows you're there, then it's gonna it may even start attacking you. Like I remember after when I came back to the physical and the AI knew I was there, it started like attacking me in weird ways. Like it would keep coming up in my psyche. Like it kept coming up in my mind's eye. Like it was intrusive, like letting me know this motherboard, this giant AI was letting me know, I know you're there. I kept going to Mars to help fight, like in the city. I would go to the city and I was like sneaking around, and sometimes I would use some certain powers. Like at one point I had like this suit. I had this giant suit that was like a Spider-Man suit. And I was doing parkour everywhere, and I had like Spider-Man webs, and I'm running from these AI and like attacking them. Yo, let's bring up that part. I almost forgot about that. Was the robot army. Hold on, let me scroll up. So when this started happening, I knew they were going to try some more because the robots knew I was there. That meant the AI knew I was there, and then the AI started attacking me in my psyche, and when it was doing that, it causes a lot of, you keep seeing it in your mind's eye. It's intrusive, like its energy is very intrusive on you. And then sometimes it pull up in the astral on me. And then I was like, it was basically trying to say, stay the hell away from Mars, Narcity, what we do, and don't try and do nothing here. But I ain't listening. I'm a GFL agent. I ain't listening. At one point, I was on Mars, but I was on a positive area of Mars. And I was hanging out with some family and some stuff like that in some other cities. But I didn't know that the AIs would know that I'm there too. So what happened was I go in this area on Mars. I don't know where I was, but it looked like Phoenix. Like it looks like Phoenix heavily. And I'm there in this house and I'm hanging out with some friends and family. And then this Asian woman comes up while I'm there. She comes up and we're having a conversation, but I knew it wasn't. When you go to astral school a lot and you get a lot of training as a astral warrior, you start to learn how to spot these things. You learn how to spot reptilians, how to spot robotoids, how to spot any being in disguise. So I'm talking to this lady and I don't know how I knew she was an AI. I just knew it was an AI. And I grabbed her by her hair and I started swinging around. I was like, you think you could play with me? And then her mask ripped off and she appeared as this like white robot with red eyes, like searing red eyes and total white robotoid kind of looking body. And I ripped its face off and I knew what was happening here. And I took it and I started swinging her around. And then I threw her into like this. It was supposed to be like a space garbage. I actually have one in my room. It's an energetic garbage can. So any energy I don't like, I literally take it in my room and I throw it in this like energy porthole in my room. And then it just goes into space and gets transmuted. And so we had one like that in that house. So it was like a space garbage. So I swung her around and then I threw her in there. And in my head, I'm like, they think they could play with me. And I was like, I know they know I'm here now too. So that was weird. And then it happened again. Like some person pulled up on me and I knew it was a robot. And I took them by their hair and I ripped their face off. And then right then it was like, you could see the robot. So what did I do? Let me actually read what I did after. There was one guy that was there that I thought was cool looking and I wanted to hang out with him. And then at one point I realized he was an evil one in disguise too. I wrote down here. So like he was either a robot or a reptilian. And then I started hunting his ass, and that's when he started running away. Like as soon as, I don't know how, I mean, I shouldn't say I don't know how, because I do know how. Psychically, I knew he was a reptilian, and then he started running. Like as soon as I started hunting him, I was like, oh, I know what's going on. Sometimes I like my weapon as a butcher knife, I don't know why I like butcher knives, because it feels very human, but also warrior-like at the same time. So I took this knife, and I started running around, like hunting him. He knew, like, he was running, bro. He was running. Like it was crazy. I remember just driving around the city. I was getting to know some businesses there. There was one business that was taking care of young Martian kids that were basically like the system put them in this position where the kids couldn't be taken care of, and they were like slum kids and they're being taken care of. And then at one point I was hanging out with some star seeds there, like some starseed family that was also on a mission there with me. And it was like I was looking out for robots. The others didn't know though. So we were in a more positive area of Mars and they didn't know, but I was looking out for these robots. I'm like, okay, I know they could pull up at any moment. So at this point, I was like, when I'm on Mars, I have to be aware that these robots are going to pull up. And every time I go to Mars and I'm just hanging out with some Martian family, or maybe I'm doing a mission, right? And it's like involved with not taking down whatever empire they doing, but just to be there and to do whatever I'm supposed to be helping out with the natives and the people there. Then these robots pull up in disguise, and I always know sometimes we have a shootout, or I just find them and I rip their faces off and I say, you think you can play with me? And then I kick their asses out. But every time this happens, then the AI knows that I'm there, so it's like it just gets annoying. So I've been doing this mission a little bit with some other star seeds that are in the server, but we kind of stopped going to Mars so much. So I'm just saying this so that you guys proceed with caution if you go to Mars and know what's really going on over there. And I hope that truth helps you guys out.